Hi. I'm actually sitting in my name's Robert. A band-aid on my finger. I can explain that later. I'm sitting actually at on the campus of the beautiful Culver Studios. Let me show you. See that? Anyway, this is where I work, and used to be RKO Studios, where they made King Kong. So every day I come to this campus, I'm like kind of living semi-charmed kind of life. It's like I just love the fact that there's so much history here. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jackie, a movie that I saw a couple of weeks ago, and some of it is kind of fading from memory, but it's a movie I really liked. First, I guess full disclosure, I really love history and movies about history. And I recently saw, for the first time, I saw all of JFK, Oliver Stone JFK, and because I'm fascinated by JFK, the assassination of JFK, and very, very much into the kind of all of what Oliver Stone sort of, uh, explored in that movie. But what struck me first about this movie was how little of that you feel. You don't. There's not a trace of Oliver Stone in the entire movie. Not that you would expect it, but just the fact that the movie so successfully gets underneath the 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 despair and of the tragedy rather than talking about the tragedy itself. But that's a big difference and something that I feel like the movie really does very well. Another thing that struck me about the movie that I think is fascinating is given the fact that it was a movie that came out in 2016, which is a year famously marked by so many famous deaths, and it was like one after the other. We all know you had your one or two or three that just really kind of socked you in the gut. And what the movie kind of does, not that it's setting out to do this, obviously, but for me personally, it was almost like a corrective of sorts because, uh, when a famous person dies, for us, it does kind of hit you in the gut if you're a person who followed that person's career or whatever. But it's not always about, obviously, reflecting on someone's canon or body of work or reevaluating somebody's uh, discography or something. It's an actual death, and it's an actual loss of a loved one for somebody or some family. And so watching this movie was kind of like uh, almost reevaluating my own feelings, like when certain people this year died. It's like it's not about me, basically. It's about certainly it is, and what they did for the world. With whatever talent they had that's now gone. Obviously those things will be lost and missed, and those are important as well. But there's something else that is so much more important, and that's the loss of that life to a person who is close to them. And I just really feel like that for me, that was kind of a nice. It was almost a shaming in a way because I kind of put too much pers- uh, perspective was all wrong on that. I'm kind of stumbling over my words. Didn't practice any of this. It's all fresh for you. Third thing is just the performance of Natalie Portman. Just, I'm not a huge Natalie Portman fan. There are certain things she does as an actress that kind of get on my nerves a little bit, frankly. But here's a woman who, for the over the course of this 90 minutes, had to convey basically two basic things. One was shock, and the other was anger. And the movie splits those kind of right down the middle, and we see the aftermath, the direct aftermath of, in the days and weeks following the tragedy. And she is in that state of shock that I imagine any of us would be. And she hits that nail so perfectly, in my opinion. And then later, when she's hanging out with Billy Crudup, telling her story, or telling her story the way she wants it told, and she's embodying something more like sort of resigned anger, and she's doing it so well. And she sustains it. She sustains both of these in those segments over the course of the movie. Obviously, there's also scenes where she's, I don't know if it was See It Now or one of those kind of shows back in the early 60s that would kind of like walk around a person's house, like a rich person's house or a famous person's house, and show them how they lived. Sort of like what's that MTV show, Cribs or whatever? Cribs of the 60s. In any case, it shows her there too. So so I guess we can kind of remember the poise and the charm of Jackie Kennedy, what kind of made her famous and beloved at the time and beyond. But outside of those scenes, you're seeing nothing but shock and anger, and it's done so well, and it sort of won me over. And I can't imagine she won't be nominated for Best Actress for the year. Whether she wins or not, who knows? But if she wins, I won't be disappointed because I just really think she does a fantastic job. And the last point I'd make, I have no idea how long I've been going. Oh, 6 minutes. Sorry. Kind of silly in the context of all of what I've just said, but I can't. I've been watching The Crown, and just the interesting dichotomy between the depiction of a woman who is basically shuttled off or shoved out of the White House because that's just the way it is, and the contrast of that to this sort of centuries-old, tradition of just catering to the next person in the bloodline, and how easy that transition is, at least physically, maybe not politically, obviously, as we're seeing if you watch that show. But what I'm saying is that it was just kind of an interesting contrast to me. Some great performances in this movie, Sarsgaard and Hurt and Greta Gerwig and Billy Crudup, of course. It's really, I think it's a really fine movie. I think it made, number 3 in the ZekeFilm list. It made my number 4, right behind. Well, now I've forgotten what my top 3 were. In any case, a great movie. I saw the list for what the other 2 are in this list, the ZekeFilm list. But I know miracles can happen, and I'm really hoping that Shin Godzilla pulls out an upset in the end. Anyway, I'm Robert, and I hope if you haven't seen Jackie, there are no spoilers. You already know what happens, but hope that you see the movie and can appreciate it for these few things. Anyway, have a great evening, and from downtown Culver City, Culver Studios, I'm Robert. Have a good night. Bye.